Good evening, everyone. First of all, we would like to welcome all of you to this session on fundamental analysis in making the right investment decision, which is conducted jointly by the Academy of Finance and SoftLogic Stockbroker. First of all, I assume that you can hear me well. If you can't hear me, just put a message on the chat. Hope all of you can hear me well. Right. So let me do the introduction. This session is brought to you by the Academy of Finance and SoftLogic Stockbrokers, and my name is Kapila Dodamgoda. I am the founder, managing director of the Academy of Finance. Academy of Finance has been founded 12 years ago with the vision of empowering the next generation professional with financial wisdom and with a mission of training and enriching non-finance professionals to become finance savvy and providing development opportunities and higher qualifications for finance professionals. And Academy of Finance has partnerships with the CMA Australia, Institute of Certified Management Accountants Australia, for the past 15 years, and with the ACI University for the past 12 years, and with the Institute of Internal Auditors for almost 10 years, and with the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investment for the past 10 years. I will just spend a minute on the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investment because most of those who have registered for this program have indicated that they are interested in following some program which is related to securities investments related area. So spending a minute on this, CISI, or the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments, is the largest and most widely respected professional body for the securities and investment profession in the UK and financial services centers globally. Formed in 1992 by the London Stock Exchange, the practitioners of CISI has a global community of more than 45,000 members in over 100 countries. And for those who are interested about producing something relating to the wealth and investment management, we have the CISI Wealth and Investment Management Program. And this program, of course, is a customized qualification aimed at wealth and investment practitioners, which could include bankers and various other professionals, insurance, stockbrokering community who are dealing with high net worth clients and proposing investment. And also, it is for the serious investors and high net worth individuals who want to make informed and sensible decisions regarding the investment, what they should invest and what they need to consider so that you become a more informed, more rational and more sophisticated investor. And this qualification can be completed within a period of 6 months. Of course, in addition to the Wealth and Investment Management Program, CISI offers, along with the Academy of Finance, Risk in Financial Services, Global Financial Compliance related program. And apart from that, the CMA Australia program, institute offered by the Institute of Certified Management Accountants Australia, is a flagship program of the Academy of Finance, which is a finance qualification for finance professionals as well as non-finance professionals. And this can be completed by qualified professionals in the banking, marketing, engineering, business administration, different areas in 1 year, and a qualified MBA holders with finance content within a period of 6 months, and a qualified finance professional within a 7-day qualifying workshop. That's all about Academy of Finance. And also we offer the Institute of Internal Auditors Certified Internal Auditor Program. So this is a little bit about us. And if you are interested about a serious program on investment, you can contact us regarding the Wealth and Investment Management Program. So let's come back to where you all are here. This program in fundamental analysis in making the right investment decision will cover 5-6 different areas, which include the stock market performance during the recent past, the Sri Lankan market, and also the sectoral performance in 2020 last quarter and 2021 first quarter. And then we'll be touching upon the most actively traded listed companies and the sectors in our market. Thereafter, factors to consider before making an equity investment decision, and stock analysis based on multiples and price movement. And also we'll be concluding with a quick outlook of Sri Lankan economy from the perspective of an investor. This is what we are going to cover in this session. And to help us on this, actually, we have our facilitator for today, that is Ms. Shadini Silva. Shadini unveils over 6 years of industry experience with SoftLogic stockbrokers, providing constructive analysis on diversified apparel, construction, and manufacturing sectors in Sri Lanka, covering a vast array of large and mid-cap stocks listed in the Colombo Stock Exchange over the years. Prior to joining SoftLogic Equity Research, Shadini has been engaged in the apparel industry, working for 2 major exporters. She holds a Master's in Business Administration degree from the University of Cardiff Metropolitan and a Bachelor's of Science degree from University of Colombo. She is an associate member of CIMA UK and also a member of the British Computer Society. And also, I would like to share with you that with the CFA awards completed a couple of days ago, the Best Equity Research Report award has been given to the report done by Shadini and her colleague Mahesh Udugampala for the report conducted, which was done for Haley's Fabric PLC. Please join with me in congratulating her on this remarkable achievement. Before I hand it over to Shadini, let me also introduce the Erdly Kern, who is going to be the facilitator of the Q&A session. Kern is a specialized professional in equity investment with over 30 years of experience in the capital markets and investment banking. He is the head of sales in SoftLogic Stockbrokers since 2013, and he has a wealth of experience in the industry, working with Lanka Securities as head of sales and marketing for 7 years, and with Jardine Fleming, HNB Stockbrokers and Somerville Stockbrokers as senior investment analyst. Kern holds a degree in business administration from the Association of Business Executives of UK and an MBA from Australia, and is also a certified management accountant Australia. So let's now start the session. So what my advice to you is, we will be now starting the session, which will continue for about 1 hour. And after 1 hour, we will be having the Q&A session. So I would invite you to post your queries as and when we progress through the session, so that the facilitator will be having the opportunity to go through your questions. So you don't have to wait to post your question until we finish the session. You can start posting your question when you have. But also please remember, there may be vast number of questions. So we will have to answer the question on a selective basis, because we have promised that this session will be completed within 1.5 hours. So there will be 1 hour of delivery and half an hour of Q&As, and you are allowed to post your questions right now, starting from right now. So let me once again very warmly invite Shadini to her presentation. Over to Shadini.
Thank you, Kapila, for the brief introduction. And thank you for congratulating SoftLogic Stockbrokers on the CFA Awards. So, yes, so let me share my screen to start off the proceedings. Right, so hope I'm clear, the screen is clear. So today what we are hoping to do is, or to share with you all is some insights on making some sensible and timely equity investment decisions. So with me, I have a few slides prepared for the presentation today, as Kapila briefed all of us. So we will be touching on some of the factors that has impacted the market performance, the external factors that have impacted the Colombo Stock Exchange index movement, and how attractive the stock exchange looks as of now compared to the regional peers. And I will also be briefing on the corporate earnings, the significant corporate earnings which our listed corporates recorded during the last March ending quarter, and also about the active companies and the sectors which were contributing well for this quarterly earnings growth for the past few quarters. And also, finally, we'll be touching on briefly on the economic outlook of Sri Lanka and how that has sort of impacted the equity investment decisions. So let me start off my presentation with this slide. So here, what we have is, this is the ASPI index movement, which I have plotted, taking you all back to early 2020. So as I told before, there were many external factors that we, not only Sri Lankans, but as a whole, the entire world had to go through during the past few months, maybe past few years, we can say, from early 2020. So if we look at our graph, we can see from early 2020, the ASPI was faring quite okay. It was in a low interest rate regime. The returns were quite okay for the ASPI. So it was faring okay until we got that alarming sign for the pandemic. So it was during mid-Feb where WHO announced that this COVID-19, which sort of triggered in different parts of the world, could be closer to a pandemic. And that is when the panic all started. So we had a lot of foreign funds that were cutting their positions from almost all Asian markets, including Sri Lanka. So we saw a lot of foreign selling during that period from mid-Feb towards March. And then in our country, we found out the first COVID patient, and then we went into that almost a 7-week long lockdown. So from 20th March till about 11th May, entire country was at a lockdown. So same as CSE, the market was closed for almost 7 weeks, whilst everything was, whilst the government and all the other health regulators were trying to sort of find measures to contain this virus, the emerging virus at that time. However, when we resumed back in 11th May 2020, despite seeing foreign selling, foreigners pulling back their funds out of Asian markets, including Sri Lanka, our index sort of started to gather momentum. We saw it gradually increasing. This was mainly led by the active local participation. So during that time, our corporates were hammered by this pandemic spread. So amidst the pandemic, central bank and the government decided to offer concessionary interest rates so that corporates could cope up well with this challenging situation. So lower interest rates were offered, so policy rates were cut during that period of time, but gradually market gathered momentum. Despite all the challenges, this was predominantly driven by the local participation. However, then again in October, we see another big dip. So the index actually fell, like it was one of the largest single day drops in the Colombo Stock Exchange history. If we look at the reason why, so that was a second wave emergence. So in October, it was then that we got that alarming news. The second wave of COVID is gradually coming back, re-emerging in Sri Lanka. So that was when panic selling also triggered for a short period of time. But despite small lockdowns, government very well managed to contain the situation, to control all the virus spread in a very, very effective way during that time. So it was gradually normalizing. But given the very lackluster performance that we saw in the first and the second quarter of 2020. So it was not only Sri Lanka, all the other countries were struggling because of the pandemic. So given our lackluster performance as well, so our GDP contracted by about 16% in the second quarter 2020, we saw international rating agencies coming and downgrading Sri Lanka's sovereign rating. So this was a bit of a bad patch on Sri Lanka. So then again, we saw index sort of being a bit volatile, but it wasn't bad. It was resilient actually. The locals did not give up, despite the market not having the interest from foreigners. The local investors kept on actively participating in the market movement. And then in November, the 2021 budget was announced. So that's when the government very aggressively proposed more concessions, concessionary tax rates for corporates, reduced VAT, and other many sorts of concessions were proposed so that it'll revive the sentiment back and bring back the corporates to life. So in all these months, amidst these challenges, our listed corporates were actually adapting. They were adapting quite well. Their agile movements, adapting to the situation, trying to get their processes underway, adhering all the health and safety standards, managed them to get significantly high corporate earnings for the December ending quarter. And amidst low interest rates, with good corporate earnings, another very important incident we need to record during that period. So this is when the whole digitalization process of CSE happened. And we saw a lot of new CDS accounts come into the market, and a lot of activity, a lot of local activity actually fueled the sentiments. So in midst of all this, the government was also rolling out an effective vaccination rollout process during that period. So things were actually gradually falling in place. So ASBI even touched its peak of 8,800 levels in January 2021, gathering momentum slowly. So things were quite okay. Corporates were doing well, and Sri Lanka was gradually, coming back to that normal, that adapting to the new normal condition. So in that period, we managed to get hold of some foreign loans as well. Some swap agreements were signed. So gradually, market was doing fine. And then again, the third alarming sign, the COVID third wave. So we saw that coming back again in April. So despite our locals being very active, there were some profit takings as well, but the overall process was a bit slowed down after it got slowed down because of the third wave. But yet, so I've taken through all these incidents. It has been challenging for Sri Lanka. It's not only for Sri Lanka, but yet, if we see where we stand today, Colombo Stock Exchange's main index, the ASPI, has year-to-date gained over 14%, which is really impressive. And also, if we look at the average daily turnover levels, this is purely based on the active local participation that we record an average daily turnover of about 4 billion now in 2021, which is much more higher than what we recorded in 2020, which was even below 2 billion levels. So despite the challenges, we see where we stand. And if we see how attractive we are, so we can compare ourselves with the region. So if we look at the regional peer trading multiples, so the PE multiples, if we take as a measure to compare where we stand with the other stock exchanges in different regions like our neighboring countries, Sri Lanka is very much attractive, trading at a PE multiple of around adjusted PE multiple of 11.9 times, which is more than a 40% discount if we take the average PE multiple of the regional markets. So if we look at India, They are trading at much higher P multiples of 32 times. Indonesia of 30 times. So when we compare ourselves, we look very attractive. So despite we not having that foreign interest that we should have, we are very confident that gradually, once things adjust, things get normalized, we will see active foreign participation as well in the near future, so that our market will be even more attractive. So moving on to the next few slides. So we need to understand how did Colombo Stock Exchange manage to record such a robust growth. It was purely, as we mentioned in the beginning, it was purely because of the resilient performance of our listed corporates. So the listed corporates, despite all the challenging conditions, health constraints that they had, they had to work with limited staff and all that and whatnot. So with all that, they managed to record the highest ever quarterly profit of 109 billion in the first quarter of 2021, which is the March ending quarter. So if we just have a look at, if we have a glance at like the fourth quarter of 2020, that is last year, December ending quarter, yet again, it was another record breaking quarter. The listed companies recorded a profit of about 85 billion. So back-to-back record-breaking quarters we are seeing. So we see how well the corporates have adapted to all these new conditions. They've adjusted themselves to the new normal, and they've posted excellent performance during the past few quarters. So if you look at the main sectors that who are very active and who contributed largely towards this growth. So the banking sector, diversified financial sector, the material sector, the exports, the transport and logistics. Those were some of the main sectors that were very, very actively participating during the last few quarters. So I was telling we were like on a roll, back-to-back record-breaking quarters. So if we look at the year-over-year earnings growth, this has clearly outperformed the SPI growth, and this is even more than a 200% year-over-year profit growth by the listed corporates. And on a QOQ basis, like if we compare the last December ending quarter versus this March 2021 quarter, it is again a 28% year-over-year growth, QOQ growth. So this is quite significant. So if we just have a glance and if we just see what sort of a result that we can expect for the full year. So well, we know that currently we were under some travel restrictions. So yes, we might see some temporary hiccups or hitches in earnings because of the couple of weeks, maybe a month or so being under travel restrictions. But when the condition is back to normal, we expect the earnings growth to be above even 30% for the full year 2021, which is going to be another record-breaking year if things are gradually okay, because COVID is a very unpredictable condition which everybody is experiencing right now. So what we see is if things get gradually normal, our corporates are even capable of recording a earnings growth above 30% year-over-year for 2021. So as I was mentioning before, so these were some of the sectors. So what I've plotted here is I've taken the trading multiples, the PE and the PBV versus the ROE multiple. And then I've plotted the graph so that you can see some of these sectors are outstanding. So if you look at the transportation and logistics sector, they have posted ROEs close to 60% levels, which is very high. And the material sector, 18% ROE. Then food and beverage, 12% ROE. Banks, more than 9% ROE. So this is like the average ROE which we have seen over the last few weeks. So what we see is this growth is sustainable given things are gradually normalizing. So if I take you through some of the most active companies in these sectors, well, there were different reasons why these sectors were active, and most of these companies who are in these sectors managed to capitalize well on the given opportunities. So if I take you to the banking sector stocks. So in the banking sector, despite the central bank, asking them to give concessionary loans to all these, industries and all corporates who were hammered by the pandemic, they still managed to maintain their earnings growth. They managed to sustain a good loan book growth during the past few quarters. So given that they were offered a very challenging task to help revive the economy, central bank even halted the dividend payments of banks so that it sort of compensates the pressure that they had to absorb by cutting down, weighing on their NIMs and so on. However, given the good performance that we have seen by all the stocks listed in this sector, now we've seen from early this year, the banks are again offering dividends to their shareholders. So this is something very encouraging. So all the companies, Commercial Bank, Sampath Bank, HNB, NDB, NTB, Ceylon Bank, all these listed banking sector corporates managed to record very impressive profits over the last few quarters. So what we can expect in the coming quarters is they might have some sluggishness during this quarter, given the travel restrictions that the country had to undergo due to the third wave spread. However, when things are now we see gradually things are getting back in place, so we can expect them to sort of pick up in the next couple of months and sort of continue to contribute positively to the corporate earnings growth. And then we move on to the material segment. So this material segment is also another very big contributor in our earnings growth over the last few quarters. So there were many reasons. So as we were discussing about the incidents that happened during the past few months over 2020 and 2021, early in 2020, we saw central bank in March, April time, central bank and government sort of imposed import restrictions on certain non-essential and luxury good items. This was mainly done as a measure to control the pressure on the currency. Plus, this was a measure to sort of encourage or help the local industries to pull back to their places to get back to their shoes and get them up and running despite the challenges. So there were many sectors who capitalized well on these import restrictions given by the government. So under these import restrictions, we had several food items and other goods like tiles, wall tiles, sanitary ware, and even import duties of certain materials were increased, such as like in cement, and there were constraints on exporting scrap metal during that time. So all these things actually helped to showcase a significant profit growth in companies like Royal Ceramic, Tokyo Cement, Lanka Tiles, Lanka Wall Tiles, ACL Cables, Alumex, Parquet, Central Industries. So all these companies really capitalized well amidst these import restrictions. And even now, to date, currently also we are having certain import constraints on certain raw materials. So what we expect is the demand for these companies will sort of sustain in the near term. And then if we move over to the export sector. So this is also another sector which performed really well despite the challenging times. So we saw some slowdown in their earnings early in 2020, but they were also one of these resilient sectors who managed to sort of cope up with the situation, adjust their schedules, produce whatever is necessary according to the demand. And also they also got the benefit of the depreciating currency. So when the currency is depreciating and when you're earning in dollars, yes, that is a direct boost to your earnings. So companies like Haycarb, Dip Products, Haley's Fabric, and TGL were some of these companies who managed to get the benefits from these conditions. However, I need to highlight, so now there's like concerns on GSP plus concessions, there's talks that, EU Parliament might sort of think of revoking the concessions. So yes, it might be a bit challenging. It might make our exports a bit more less competitive compared to other regional exports, but still it's yet to be finalized. So let's see how it comes. For now, the sector is looking promising. And then we can move over to food, beverage, and tobacco. Now we saw amidst the pandemic, sort of keeping us at home, limiting our spend on leisure and travel, there was one thing that all of us were sort of, it was a must to spend. It was on consumerism. So our consumption levels were happening, despite all the things that were happening around. We had to consume the essential items. So food, beverage, and tobacco sector was also one of these sectors who were less impacted. They saw their demand coming in. They were able to sustain their profits during last few quarters. So companies like CTC, Distilleries, Hemas, Nestle's, and CCS were all, showcasing some impressive profit growth during the past few quarters. And as I said, for other sectors, this could also be continued throughout the next few quarters as well, because we know these are all essential items that all the consumers need to consume. So the demand will sustain. So one promising sector that we can focus on is food, beverage, and tobacco going forward. And finally, let me move over to the transport and logistics sector. Yes. So Expo Lanka Holdings, which was listed under transport and logistics, managed to showcase significant profit growth during last few quarters. So we saw there was a lot of port congestions, the air freight rates, the sea freight rates, everything was surging, skyrocketing. So this directly, despite all this, international trade still remained as a very key, very important thing in all our day-to-day activities, in all economies. Trade is one of the key aspects. So despite the rates going high, the demand was there. So capitalizing on that, Expo had the one of the best few quarters in the history, and we still see the rates, sea freights, air freight rates at a very high level. So what we can see is this company also could sustain the growth momentum in the coming quarters. Okay, so now after I've briefed you all about the sectors and the companies, so now let's move on to a few things that we need to keep in mind before we go ahead with an equity investment. So like I highlighted in the previous slides, so we need to select a company before we invest in the Colombo Stock Exchange. So how can we select a good company? First of all, we need to know about the growth prospects, the future aspects of the company that we are going to select. Okay, we saw good results, very impressive earnings growth during the last few quarters from this particular corporate which we are going to invest in. But is this growth momentum sustainable? Can they or do they have in place some strategic plans to sort of maintain or improve their growth? These things we need to look out for. We need to find out answers for, because blindly investing in a company based on rumors is not very advisable, I would say. And then we could actually refer some research reports to some fundamental analysis, check on their valuations, whether these companies are trading at very attractive multiples at the moment. Now we see our Colombo Stock Exchange as a whole is currently very, very attractive compared to the regional peers. So we can think, okay, are these corporates which we are going to invest our money in, are they trading at very attractive multiples? Think about that. And again, another aspect we need to think about is what do these corporates offer us apart from the impressive profit growth? So yes, the dividend policy. We also need to look into the dividend policies of particular corporates, because we've seen some companies, they on a very quarterly basis or maybe an annual basis, they're regular dividend payers. They have followed a practice to give dividends to their shareholders. So if that is the case, yes, that is going to be an additional advantage for us if we are getting the dividends. And another aspect we need to look at is, now, if they are having growth plans in mind, how are they going to fund these growth plans? Are they already highly geared? We know that this is a low interest rate regime, that is true, but still we need to be mindful whether their interest present debt stocks are, at that it's actually not so high, or is it at a manageable state? Another thing we need to look at is about their cash reserves. So all of these, if we analyze their financial statements, we can get a very good understanding about all these aspects, because it's very essential that we understand that these are the things about, these are the main aspects about the company which we are going to invest in, so that in the future they might deliver good results, and we might get good returns on our investments. So another thing I would say that you need to keep in mind is about the external factors that are affecting their revenue flows and the costs. So basically, if the demand is sustainable, they have been performing well over the past few quarters, and if the demand is sustainable, yes, this is a good company to invest. And how about the cost pressures? So if they are currently not exposed to significant cost pressures, their margins will not be under pressure. They can manage their current margins in the coming quarters as well, which is very, very encouraging. So we need to consider what is impacting their demand and costs. And another very important thing we need to focus on is our investment horizon. So as investors, equity investors, we need to think, are we investing in stocks on a short-term basis? Is it for like 2-3 months that we are now planning to invest and get the returns? Or is it for a longer horizon, maybe a year, 2, or maybe 3 or 4 years that we are planning to invest our money and wait for returns? So based on the horizon, we need to select stocks effectively, because some stocks might not overnight perform as we expect, but there might be plans, growth plans, which would be materializing in the coming few years, where we will get the returns over the medium term. So we need to be very mindful when we are selecting stocks based on the time horizon that we are planning to invest. And another thing is the alternative options that we are left with. So why do we have to invest in the Colombo Stock Exchange? Do we have any other options where we can get much more high returns? So for a simple comparison, I can take the current fixed deposit interest rate, so which is hovering at some of its low levels of 4 to 5% levels over the past few quarters. So if we compare these returns with the CAC returns, if we can assure a return of about more than 15% in the short run also, then why do we have to hesitate? Yes, so that's where we need to be wise. We are investing our money, so we need to think what option gives us the highest returns. And finally, the economic outlook of the country. It could be the global outlook, it could be the local factors. We need to be mindful of those factors as well, because after all those will trickle down to the profits of the corporates which we are going to invest in. So in these few slides, what I've done is I have put some stocks which are currently based on their trading P multiples, 12-month trading P multiples, some of the very, very cheap stocks that are in the Colombo Stock Exchange. They are even trading at a steep discount to the overall market adjusted PER of 11.9 times. So do a bit of fundamental analysis. So here what we have is stocks placed based on their ROEs. So if we are getting higher ROEs, yes, that's a very attractive investment. So over here what I have is about 25 stocks which gives the highest ROEs in the Colombo Stock Exchange. So yes, you could have a look at these counters before you go ahead with your investment decision. And over here, what we have is the highest dividend yielding stocks, all on fundamental analysis. So if you're to get a higher dividend yield, as I told, yes, that's an added advantage on top of a good price increase for the companies that we have invested. So be mindful, check on these things before you go ahead with your investment decisions. Yes, if we move on to this slide, what we see in this slide is, as I mentioned before, so certain factors affect the cost side of companies. So the global commodity prices is one such main aspect which sort of impact costs of corporates to a great extent. If the corporates that we select are planning to import raw materials, and if they are planning to use them for their production, and if the global raw material prices are increasing, it is not going to be that attractive, or it's not going to be very positive for the margins of these corporates. So if we look at the first graph, the crude oil prices, as we've seen, it has been hovering at very low levels during 2020 March, April times, but now if we look at now, year to date, it has even gone up 40% levels. And if you look at the next chart, the base oil prices, which is in the main ingredient for lubricant industry, the base oil prices in the global arena has gone up over 35% year to date. Cotton prices, which is the main ingredient for the apparel industry, up by 7% year to date. And copper prices, which is used in the construction industry, it's also up by close to approximately 19% year to date. So all these charts indicate that there could be cost pressures for corporates who are engaged with these raw materials. So as sensible investors, we need to be mindful of these things as well. And let me move over to the exchange rate. Why I have the exchange rate slide over here is, exchange rate is like a tricky factor. It can operate in two different ways based on what the corporate is basically engaged in. If the corporate that we select is a corporate who earns in dollars, actually the depreciating LKR is an added bonus to increase their profits. So far, we have seen the Sri Lankan rupee weakening about 7% year to date against the US dollar. And given the present scenario, we can expect a further depreciation in the currency in the coming months of 2021 also. So if the corporate that we select is planning to, earning in dollars, this is a very big positive because the depreciating currency is going to further elevate their profits. But if they are into importing raw materials for their production, the currency depreciation is going to further weigh on their margins. Cost side pressure is going to be higher. So eventually, this is not going to be very positive for them in the near term. Okay, in the next few slides, what I have is the price movements versus the ASPI. So what I've done over here is I've plotted the SPI movement versus the share price movement of few stocks. And so first slide has the share price movement of Royal Ceramics versus the SPI movement. So if we look at the 2021 year so far, Royal Ceramics share price movement has outperformed the SPI price movement. So it has been very aggressively, we've seen the profits growing of Royal Ceramics. So in the same way, the share price has been very aggressively going up over 2021. And in this slide, what I have is the share price movement of Sampath Bank versus the SBI. Here we see a very volatile price movement of Samp versus the SBI. So this is not the same as what we saw in RCL. So both Samp and RCL had share splits during the last few months. The share price is being adjusted to these splits. So this is like the two slides, give like two different pictures of how they've been behaving. So this is all based on their performance and their future growth prospects. And in the next slide, what I have is Hemas Holdings share price movement based on the SPI. So share price of Hemas also has not been so great compared to the gains of SPI. So what I really wanted to show over here is when we are selecting a stock, the entry point of this stock really matters. If the stock has not really outperformed the SPI movement so far, if the share price has further room to grow, yes, we can be sure. And also if the stock has some, very good future growth plans in place for the coming years, yes, there is room for this share price to grow. So we need to be mindful when we are going to enter into the stock market, at which price we are going to buy into stocks, so that we will not have to undergo losses or cut down on losses, things like that. So that's what I wanted to show from the price movement slides. Right. So now moving on to the brief economic outlook that I wanted to give all of you all. So let me first present this slide to you. We need to understand why the stock exchange looks very attractive amidst these economic conditions in the country. So in the first chart, what I've done is I've plotted the SPI index movement versus the 12-month treasury bill movement. So what we've seen is over the past few months, actually from 2020 onwards, the treasury bills were hovering at some of the lower levels. It was hovering around 5% levels. But we saw SPI gaining a lot of traction. It was having very impressive gains. So clearly from this chart, we see that the SPI growth seems to be very much attractive when we compare it against the government security yield rates at the present circumstances. And the next chart, it shows the private sector credit movement. So private sector credit also has been very aggressive over the past few months. One reason being, this is the low interest rate regime. So most of the banks, the commercial banks, offered very low interest rates to the corporate so that they can gain back their lost momentum due to pandemic hit sentiment. So in March, we saw the private sector credit disbursement being above 100 billion. It was 112 billion for the month of March. And in month of April also, it was a bit slower. It's generally the seasonality impact for April, but still it was about 58 billion levels. So we see the credit movement in the private sector, it's there. So what we can expect is this credit to sort of trickle down to the equity investments as well, which is going to be very positive, despite very, momentarily slowdowns that we could expect due to the third wave. This sentiment might sort of continue in the coming months as well, which is going to be very positive for equity investments. So if we have a look at other economic aspects of the country, so inflation, a very key thing in the economy. So inflation we saw in the month of March was following some sort of an upward trend. So it reached 4.5% in May. This was mainly because of increasing food inflation and non-food inflation. So what we expect is going forward, we might see cost side pressures, we might see supply side constraints. So there were price increases in non-food aspects like fuel as well. So what we can expect is inflation might hover around its upper bound, which is the 5 to 6% levels towards end of 2021. Moving over to the next slide, the GDP growth, which is one of the key aspects in our economy. So 2021 was a very, very challenging year for Sri Lanka, not only Sri Lanka, for many other countries as well. So we recorded the worst ever performance in our history, where our GDP contracted by 3.6% in 2020. So this was mainly due to the impacts of the first and second quarters that was drastically hit by COVID-19. But in 2021, we are coming off from a lower base. Yes, even now we are having a challenging situation. So we need to look at GDP under two scenarios. So first scenario is if the government and our people, the relevant authorities manages to contain the virus spread within a few months' time. Yes, we can expect the GDP to sort of grow by 3.5 to 4% levels for 2021. However, the other scenario, if the third wave sort of extends, if it gets prolonged, if we continue to see further travel restrictions, yes, that will hinder the all segments, including services to agriculture to industries. So then we will have to look at a GDP growth of about 2 to 3%, yet is a positive growth because, as I told before, we are coming from a lower base in 2020. So moving on to the next slide, another big concern the country is actually battling at the moment is the external debt stock of the country. So we have quite a lot of external debt that is maturing, including international sovereign bonds. So in next month, so that is 27th June, we will have to honor a USD 1 billion sovereign bond repayment. And over the next 10 years or so, we might see sovereign bonds maturing where the government will have to continue with the repayments as and when it is due. So that is a bit challenging for the government. So we have seen the debt to GDP also therefore increasing. It was, we are currently operating under very limited gross official reserves. So the debt to GDP is also above 100% levels. In 2020, it touched 101% GDP. So which is very, very, currently it's a tough condition for the government given the present circumstances. So gross official reserves is also at about 4 billion at the moment as of end May. So it's a bit tough for the government with all these limited, things that, they have to tackle. They have to tackle the COVID spread also. Limited credit lines also. Therefore, what we think is, tackling foreign credit lines will remain very, very crucial in the coming few months or in the coming few years for the government. So we've seen, we already signed in March a swap agreement with China, a USD 1.5 billion swap agreement with China. And also we received a $500 million loan from South Korea. And also there was another swap agreement signed with Bangladesh for $250 million. So all these things really will matter because we are actually in a challenging position. So these things will matter. So looking on to the fiscal side, so the fiscal aspect is also having a bit of challenges. So currently, amidst a very sticky revenue growth that we can expect in the coming years, in 2021 at least, because we were, all of us were offered concessions. There were reduced tax rates, reduced concessions provided for corporate. So amidst all these things, the revenue growth has been actually very sticky. But if we look at the expenditure side, it has been on an upward trajectory because apart from the capital and the recurrent expenditures, the government will have to, put more effort to contain the virus. So spend on health and safety would be increasing. That will keep on, weighing on the expenses. And apart from that, the government will still have to invest on the infrastructure developments as well. So all in all, if we look at the budget deficit against GDP, that has also sort of aggravated in 2020. It touched 14%, and given the limited resource, government is actually, trying to, depend on resorting on domestic borrowings, given the limited foreign credit lines. So given all these conditions, constraints, it's very challenging for the government. So it is very unlikely that we could see a very immediate improvement in the budget deficit to GDP as well. So all in all, what I wanted to convey today was we need to be mindful of all these economic conditions as well. It's challenging for all of us. We were under lockdowns and travel restrictions for quite a long period as of now. So challenging times for all of us. So as mindful investors, we need to be aware of all these conditions. We need to think about these conditions and invest our hard-earned money in an effective way. So my advice is do not follow rumors, do your own research, do your own analysis, don't go by speculations. Try to be aware of all these things, little things that I've mentioned in my presentation on the stock exchange as well as the economic outlook, and try to invest your money so that you can guarantee good returns whilst capitalizing on the situation. So that concludes my presentation. So I think we can move on to the Q&A session. Over to you, Kapila.
Thank you, Shadini. Thank you very much for the very interesting, very comprehensive session, given that we had only 1 hour to cover all this. You have covered most of the important areas in this session. So without taking any time, let me now also invite Kern, also the early Kern, to join us for the Q&A session. So you can take over, Kern, along with, together with Shadini. Please go ahead.